start adding people, and there we are. All loaded up. How's everybody doing tonight? Welcome back to Real Northern Bass.
Everybody.
We are loaded up with a lot of guests tonight. Talk all about New Hampshire Bass Nation Kayak. So this will be a good one. I always try to do my best to make sure I'm covering any and all aspects of bass fishing. So not just from the bass boat perspective, but we've already done several shows on kayaks and doing it again. So we're going to talk a lot about what they have got going on this year for the New Hampshire Bass Nation Kayak Trail. In the meantime, for those that are here, obviously, thank you very much. Greatly appreciated as always, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, doesn't matter. Same deal goes for leaving a like on the stream and subscribing too. If you are always watching on YouTube and you haven't done so yet, please subscribe. That would be amazing. If you're watching on Facebook often enough, or you just see my posts in there in general, if you can follow me there as well, please, I would also appreciate it. We'll continue to bring it back to your attention, but in at least the YouTube chat, I have pinned at the top the link to the Facebook page for New Hampshire Bass Nation Kayak so that you can go there and get more information on everything we're going to talk about tonight. It's also there in the Facebook feed in that chat, but I can't pin it there, unfortunately. Sorry. So you have to just kind of keep scrolling to the top and go find it. And we're going to cover a lot tonight. So not just about the tournament trail and all these anglers and the director, but also talk a little bit about the lakes and kind of whatever else you guys want to talk about that throws it out from the chat. So please don't be shy. By all means, ask us any questions at any time, and we will get to them when we can, do the best that we can. Other than that, let's get into it, and I'll start with introductions. I'm going to bring Todd first because I feel bad. I'm making up for it for forgetting to tag him in the post today. There's a lot going on. And then, of course, we're joined by Kevin, Tammy, and Matt Lee. Matt Lee has been on here before. He's a biologist with the New Hampshire Fish and Game Department, or, well, is it with the Fish and Game Department or the state? Why do I always confuse myself?
Yep, you're right, Jeff.
Okay, yep. So yeah, we had him on here, so it's nice to have you back, Matt.
Great to be back.
It's a fresh face, so this is going to be fun. I really hope you guys are all going to learn a lot from this. And again, do not be bashful. Ask any questions that you have. We'll go through with it. So, Kevin, you are kind of the man with the plan and in charge of everything. Would you why don't you start off with introductions, and then we'll go through from you to Todd to Matt to Tammy. We'll just kind of go in the pattern that everybody's lined up in here.
Yeah, so I'm the co-director of New Hampshire Bass Nation Kayak Anglers. Jeff Matava is my other co. He has a family commitment tonight, so he can't be here. He may show up a little bit later, but so I started the club last year, 2024, with Jeff, of course. Basically, I wanted to have a highly competitive kayak club in New Hampshire. A lot of the clubs that are currently in the state are social. They're competitive. Don't get me wrong. There's money on the table. But it's like a paper trail. You show up with $50 in the morning and you get paid $50. You cash in. We do everything through a Attorney X app. We'll get into that as well. Again, I just want to raise the level of competition in New Hampshire. And we've had good success, and we're in our second year now.
Very nice. Todd, why don't you go ahead and take it next?
Awesome. So Todd Dyer, I help Kevin and everyone here as part of the competition committee for the trail and offer advice or help where I can, whether it be on tournament day or talking about rules and things like that, and helping direct people to where to sign up. But fished with the trail last year, been tournament kayak fishing for quite a while. I live over on the seacoast, and I love traveling north to better water sources than what we have here. So
nice. All right, Matt.
Yeah, so I kind of have a similar role to Todd. We're kind of here to, be a think tank, put our heads together, come up with some, lakes, maybe some rule changes, just sort of, as things come along, we'll discuss and, as a committee, sort of just develop the trail. We're only in the second year, so new things pop up all the time. So we're able to chat it out between us and then, put it into place. And I think we're all, pretty experienced kayak tournament anglers at this point. I've been fishing competitively since 2016. So it's really great to have this trail in the state. I think it's a really great thing.
I agree with you on that. We'll save the best for last. Tammy.
Yeah, I don't have much more to add. Just exactly with Matt and Todd, a part of the board to help with any of the decision making or suggestions or rules change. Anything that may pop up where we need, like a board to help decide things. So me personally, I've been fishing in a kayak for probably since 2017, probably competitively for maybe since 2019, 2020. I mostly fish local stuff, along, with most everybody else situation. I can't do this professionally and I have to have a job. So unfortunately, I kind of limited to where I can go. I've tried to make some trips further out, but right now I'm sort of just within the state and a little bit, outside of that. So that's kind of the trails that I hit.
Nice. I like it. And there's nothing wrong with that. I know a
No,
lot of
not at all.
they stick to it local, and that works for them. Because traveling it's tough, even on a good day when you're trying to travel out of state on a regular basis, and it doesn't get any easier the older we get. So that's for damn sure. But I'm still just beating the crap out of myself doing that. I should probably take a break. Maybe stick to some of these local holes. But anyway, I digress. So let's talk about the tournament trail you guys have lined up for this year. Do you want to go straight into talking about the tournament trail, or you want to kind of ease into this and talk a little bit more about the organization? And for those that are interested, they can get in. I'm kind of leaning towards more of the meat and potatoes. Like, let
me start with the landscape of kayak fishing in New Hampshire, right? So as far as I know, there's 4 kayak clubs in the state. There could be some smaller clubs, but there's three others that I'm aware of. Again, they're paper trails for the most part. In Maine, there's a couple. In Massachusetts, there's a couple. But there's also national trails. There's the KBF trail that really hit the market, 8 years ago, and that's kind of really faded off, and it's really retrenched into the Tennessee Valley. Then you have Hobie, which is a big national trail, was probably the best trail out there, but that's kind of full. That's suspended activities as well. And then you have the Bassmaster Trail. So the Bassmaster Trail has really been the beneficiary of these national trails. We're affiliated with Bassmaster. So Bass is the leading, the parent. Bass Nation is a state charter of Bass. We are the kayak club under that Bass Nation banner. So in the Bass Nation, you have the boats, you have the kayaks, and then you have youth. So we are the kayak group. Last year we had 47 active members. So we're pretty large footprint when it comes to Bass Nation, New Hampshire. I think Bass Nation, New Hampshire has about 250 all in. So we're pretty good footprint. We started last year. At the time, we really planned on just doing New Hampshire lakes, but there was a lot of interest, especially from Maine. So we had 3 events in Maine in order to kind of expand our footprint. So I think we had 7 events in New Hampshire, and that's 3 events in Maine. And we had a championship on Winnipesaukee in September. So it's a little bit of background. With 2025, another major trail in the area called EKF, Elite Kayak Fishing. They managed a trail through New York, all the Northeast. Fantastic trail. They suspended again this year, so there was a healthy appetite to kind of fill that void. So we had the three events in Maine are lined up. So we added 3 events in Massachusetts. So again, we're the beneficiaries of all this consolidation within the kayak landscape here in New England.
I like it. There is more than enough opportunity for different places to go based on the schedule you guys put together, not just from state to state, but certainly by number of opportunities too. You guys have the whole season pretty well covered for what you planned for this year.
Yeah. So the way we have it set up, we'll get into this a little bit later, but at a high level, our purpose, our mission is really to drive that participation in our championship, our year-end. It's a 2-day championship held in September. And the reason for that is because we're affiliated with Bassmasters, the top 10% of our championship roster for the championship day get a ticket basically to the Bassmaster Kayak Classic. So it's everything we're trying to do is really driving towards that championship. We do have a trail. We do have AOI. We'll get into that as well. But to qualify for the championship, we've kind of not lowered our standards, but made it easy. We have 13 events. You only need to fish 3.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That is nice. It provides a lot of flexibility to a lot of people, because that's, I mean, I know certainly for me, but one of the most common things I hear from people that, try to go after a whole trail and see how they can do, like, overall points for like an Angler of the Year deal, or team of the year, when they, for trails that offer that, like, it's kind of tough when you got to do 10 to 12 events a year. And even if you throw that out, but you got to do like almost all those with 1 or 2 drops to be able to fish that kind of group's championship at the end of the season. It can be difficult. There's always things that come up, and there's usually not enough wiggle room to make it work for everybody. So I like what you guys got going on.
Right. Sammy, can you talk about the AOI and the qualifications a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So, so as I mentioned, I think we have 13 trail events plus the championship. We're doing 7 New Hampshire, 3 in Maine, 3 in Mass, and we'll be covering those a little bit later. And then a championship, which will be held in here in New Hampshire again. It'll be at Squam, but we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. In order to qualify, sorry, Kevin, was it the AOI I was covering?
Both.
Okay. Yeah, and then I'll just continue on to the so for our to qualify for the trail championship, it'll be it'll be the top 3 anglers in each of the qualifying events, or you have to fish a minimum of 3 qualifying events to qualify for the championship. The AOI and ROI race, it would be your top 5 qualifying events plus championship. And you can participate in all of them, and only your 5 best will count. So you can drop unlimited ones. Now, in order to qualify for the Bassmaster Classic, which I looked this up, it's going to be in Knoxville, Tennessee, in 2026, which I believe is the Tennessee River. And it's going to be the second week in March. Now, to qualify there for the National Bassmasters, you need if you're one of the top 5 anglers in any of the National Bassmaster Kayak events, or if you're in top 50 in AOI points for the National Bassmaster Kayak events, or for our trail and our club, we qualify top 10% of our field in the championship. So we're really trying to, that's really our goal, is really try to get as many people into that championship as we can to see if we can qualify, a good amount of people this year. This past year, we unfortunately didn't have too many and only had 1 qualify, which was a bummer, but the way it goes. So hopefully this year we can get a ton more participation to get more people to be able to qualify and make it over.
That's awesome. So I feel like that answers the question I was going to ask anyway, because I know at least like on just the Bass Nation side, there's states, regionals, national championship, classic. It sounds like just for this, there's like state championship, classic. There's nothing in between. Yep.
Correct.
Right.
I'm assuming it's because like this is still growing underneath bass and this specific trail for them, and just I don't want to say growing on the kayak side of things as well, because kayak angling has exploded. There's plenty of participants, but from the tournament side, it sounds like the numbers just have not exploded enough, or gotten to a point where there needs to be those multiple tiers all the way up. Correct?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they end up doing kind of a regional, kind of like they do in the Bass Nation format.
Yep.
I think we're a couple of years away. The footprint in New England is New Hampshire right now. That's not to say that other states may not or may create their own charter, but that's where we are. So I think the closest other state is New York. They have a charter. And I think Pennsylvania has a charter. So there's more work to do on a regional basis, but I think that's the direction of where Bass is heading.
Nice. I like it. Well, hats off to anybody that does make it to the Classic. Like, I mean, we were talking about it a little bit before the stream started. I know a couple of guys are down there. Obviously, we got one of New Hampshire's anglers that's down there, Jake Angulis, who's been on the stream before. So good luck to him. I got another friend, so it's actually kind of funny. The 2 previous kayak people that I had specifically for a kayak type topic on the stream are both Jake. And I got my Northeast Jake and I got my Midwest Jake. But they're both down there.
And congratulations to our other fellow committee member who's helping on the main trail, John Brooks, who's down there right now competing on behalf of the trail and for us and representing Maine. So
Perfect. So do you want to start showing off what this trail is going to look like? We can start talking tourney dates a little bit. Maybe you can talk about a little bit of the method to the madness behind picking these locations, or you want to
Sure.
dive into anything else for? All right, here we go. So there we are. That is the entire New Hampshire Bass Nation kayak trail. And hopefully that's big enough that everybody watching the stream can see that. We all got a little tiny, but I think it works. I think it fits. So let's start. So you guys right out of the gate are heading right down to the Cape to Waquaket.
Yeah, so we added that event because it's the Cape and it's early season friendly. So I fished Weckquack maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I didn't even know where I was when I was fishing it. I was on a vacation. I met up with a fellow kayaker, and it's not so much what you would think as a kettle pond. When I think of the Cape, I think of kettle ponds. This is a lot more. There's a lot of docks. It's not a basin. It has little coves. So it's a lot. I think there's a little bit for everything, everyone. But it's certainly definitely looks to be a structure fishery.
I will say, based on what I've seen of this place on depth charts, because I haven't fished there before, it almost looks like a very miniature Squam. Like there's a lot of humps everywhere. There's vegetation listed. There's rock piles and shoals listed. A lot of points, a lot of docks. Like it looks like a little baby Squam. Place looks cool.
Yeah, I've heard there's good fish in there too, so it should be a good event.
I have heard there are some very good fish in there. I've also been told by a number of people that there are a lot of very big pike in there. So if you're
Yes, it is a pike fishery.
Yeah, you might not want to bring your fanciest jerkbaits out there.
Bring that 40-pound flora.
Yeah. Yeah, you can only feed so many $25 110s to the pike.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, yeah, between jerkbaits and jackhammers, I usually lose 1 or 2 jerkbaits and 3 or 4 jackhammers every spring that I'm down there in the Cape, because not only are there pike in a fair number of ponds, but the pickerel down there get absolutely massive. And just on Saturday, I had one that had to have been all of 5 pounds. I know it wasn't a pike. It was definitely a pickerel because it came within, like, its dorsal fin came out of the water, like not even a foot away from the back corner of the boat. So I got a really good look at him, and he was huge. And that was about an hour after I'd already lost a jackhammer on a pickerel. Like, dunk, set the hook, and 0 resistance. Okay, there's $17. So you've all been warned. When you go down there for this first event, there's a lot of toothy critters down there. Plan accordingly.
The discount jerkbaits, the rattle and rogues.
Yeah. So that should be good. Do you expect that this is going to have a really good turnout at this one, being this early in the year, or do you think?
So I looked at it. I looked at it today. That I think there's 11 people signed up right now. It is still early in the season. People are still packing and getting the stuff ready for the season. Will it sell up? So another thing about our trails, we tend to max out at 25. There may be some events that we will go a little bit higher based on availability, like Winnipesaukee, for instance. We can get more than 25 people on Winnipesaukee. Powder Mill, we're probably looking at, that's probably where we're going to end up. Some lakes we might have to do less because of parking situations. I have to deal with the local police departments, make sure that parking is okay. Like, Bow might be a parking issue. But we have 11 people signed up, 25 max. If we have 15 to 20 people, it's actually a good, healthy tournament. Our entry fees are $100. So if we have 15 people sign up, the winner's taking home close to 50%. So a $750 paycheck to go fishing. Not bad.
No, that's phenomenal. Anybody that is curious and interested about potentially fishing this event, this first one down there, I will tell you again, I've never been there, but I've talked and I've done my research. Anybody that's watched my videos from fishing on the Cape, I've said that it's very different, right? Because it's typically just like these giant bowls of sand down there. The mass is all about not having vegetation down there. They want nice, clean, sandy places to do their swimming and boating and stuff. This place looks like it was straight up picked up out of northern New Hampshire and dropped down on the Cape. Like it's got structure. There's a lot more going on out there than you would find at pretty much any other body of water down that way, with a few exceptions. So it's very much like fishing anywhere else. So if anybody's on the fence because of that, it being like a totally different animal, it's not. It's actually very similar to anything else you find around the greater Northeast. So take that for what it's worth and go sign up, go fish. So beyond that,
Powder Mill. So Powder Mill registrations opened today. So we do our registrations. We open them 30 days in advance of the event. So that registration is now on Tourney X. Powder Mill, we chose Powder Mill because it's basically southern New Hampshire. It's shallow. It should warm up pretty quickly. It's a flooded lake, so there's certainly a distinct channel as well as a basin. So it'll be definitely a pre-spawn event, but we should see some good results out of Powder Mill at this time of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I see Jeff jumped in. Let me drag him in here. Oh, we all got super tiny. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff.
Thanks for joining us, buddy. So I feel like we need to talk a little bit about Powder Mill. This is a place that I really like. It's a lot of fun. It is interesting. So you mentioned it's, basically it's almost like a reservoir, right? It used to be originally just a river cutting through everything, and then they built a pretty big dam all the way up on the northern end.
Yep.
And it is a lot of heavy vegetation, a lot of shallow water. There's a lot of hard structure out there too.
Yep.
Very tannic. I wouldn't necessarily say like chocolate milk stained unless a nice rain event earlier this time of the year, then that tends to make it kind of chocolate milky. But it's a cool pond because this time of the year when you guys are going to be there, the vegetation is nowhere near as thick in the bulk of the areas versus heart of the summer. That place is choked to death.
Correct. But that's one of the reasons why we chose this as an early event. We just couldn't. You could, right? But to have an event there in July, it'd be more trouble than it's worth, honestly.
Yeah, then it starts to fish a lot smaller. Although for a bass boat, it starts to fish a lot smaller because there's a lot. The water comes down a little bit. It gets really skinny really fast, and there's a lot of very expansive, shallow flats all over the place, especially on the northern half. Right. That I can't get my boat in there, but a kayak you get in there all day, so you don't lose as much fishable water. And that place does play really, really fun in the shallow water when the lily pads are up. There's you can you can get pretty deep in there and get some fish out of there. So that should be a really fun one for that time of the year. Damn, if I had a kayak, I'd jump in on that. I love it. That's one of my favorite places.
I'm sure you can find one on Marketplace. Actually, I have an extra one. You want to buy one?
I just asked Jake. I think he's got like 20 of them in his back.
There you go. Yeah.
So from there, now you're starting to move a little bit north in early May, right before the season cuts off for the closed season during spawn, May 15th, June 15th. But May 10th, you move over to Bow Lake, which I've never been there. And that kind of area of the state is an area that I'm not overly familiar with just because drive time from my house to there could put me into a lot more remote places that I enjoy more. I like getting away from people when I fish local. So that's the biggest reason why I've never been out that way. But man, I've heard about this place from a number of tournaments over the years, and I think you guys are going to have another stellar event. The timing on that's phenomenal.
Yeah, Todd, you know a little bit about Bow. Why don't you talk about this one?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really fun place to fish. I think for those who know Bow, in the summertime, especially after Memorial Day, there's you really have like one main ramp. There's a smaller little car top access point that we could use, but if you're using the ramp post Memorial Day, it's a zoo. There's not really any parking. You're parking down the street. It's a small, narrow road to launch at. There's no real dock space to kind of stage your boat or your kayak. And it can just be really challenging. So fishing it early in the season will eliminate a lot of that traffic for us, which will be really nice. And I think the fishing is going to be pretty lights out. There's some really big fish in there. There's a lot of quality fish. It's a fun lake to fish. There's good structure. You can fish deep water. You can fish shallow. It's a really fun place.
Largemouth and smallmouth too. I mean, I've caught exceptional sized individuals of both species out of that place. And everybody calls it slow bow, but if you figure it out, it can be very, very good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you do have to figure it out a little bit. I won't lie, but once you figure that bow out. It just has some really, really nice fish in it.
Anytime you can tell me about a body of water, like especially that size, it's got quality on both smallies and largies, sign me up. That's one of my favorite things to do, especially like kind of that time of the year. So if one's not playing, the other one usually is. And if I get into a place that's got quality of both, there's nothing that makes me happier than go and stick a giant of both, which is why I spend so much time up on Champlain.
Makes sense.
Yeah. The other thing I'll mention about Bo is that, again, if you know Bo, then you know the parking area. So this particular event might not max out at 25. We might need to max out at a lower number. Just giving everyone a heads up, but we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I still need to connect with the local PD to find out where the parking accessibility, where we can make room, basically.
Nice. So from there, now you move back out of state and you're heading up into Maine to Cobbessaconte Stream. So which one of you has had the most experience up that way?
Ooh, I fished it once, but I think Tammy should talk about this one.
Oh, Tammy, you're muted. Nope, still nothing. Oh, no. Well, we'll give her a second. I think the mic in your headset may have become unplugged a smidge, if that's possible.
All right, Matt, you fished it too, right?
Well, yes. So we had an event up there in early September. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. And so we went up there a couple days early just to check things out. Quickly realized that it was a place that you can lock a heavy punching or flipping rod in your hand and just go through, and there's fish everywhere, and there's some big fish in there too. So it's a lot of fun. There's great largemouth in there. Everybody knows about the pike. They always fish for pike in there, but it's surprisingly big. There's a lot of water to cover, especially if some of the connecting ponds are in bounds. And you can go, I think Tammy had to save me, and Jake were fishing it, and we were pre-fishing for this event, and Tammy had to come save us because we went about 10 to 12 miles upstream from the launch, and there was no way that we were making it back with any sort of power with the motor. So luckily, a little farther up there was a small ramp that Tammy ended up driving the trailer up to, and we put the boats on and brought it back to the place. But in the meanwhile, we were catching tons of fish the whole way, lots of weeds to fish through, and multiple techniques that you could use to catch them in there. And Tammy caught a giant. I think my eyes bugged out of my head when I saw it. It was a team event, so I saw a 23.5 get posted. At the end of the day, once I got some service back, I went up in an area I couldn't get anything. And I thought there was a mistake. 23.5 is like, that's, I'd never seen one entered in a New England tournament that big, and saw the picture of it later, and I was just like beside myself. I was so happy for her and the team. It was an awesome event. I think for our best 10 fish, we had over 200 inches. So that goes to speak to the quality of that place. And I think it'll take probably 98 to 100 inches to win that one.
And then just the only I'll add is just for the uninformed. This is a Cobbessaconte Stream, not the lake proper. It also goes by the name of Pleasant Pond. So just as you're looking at the maps and trying to do map study, just make sure you're looking at the right lake.
Yes.
Yeah. Always good to know. So, okay, there was something else I was thinking about, but let's get through the last one, at least on this column. So from there, you actually, this is the beautiful part about being able to do these catch, measure, release tournaments, is that June 7th, you're on Winnie. And this is typically during the close season, but you're not keeping anything, so you guys are allowed to continue on.
Correct. Well known.
Yeah.
So Jeff joined us. Introduced Jeff. Jeff's the other co-director. I mentioned him earlier. Jeff, you want to talk about Winnie and our experience with that, with the tournament a couple years ago? Muted.
Jeff's muted too.
Oh no, Jeff,
you're muted.
We're great kayak anglers. We're not great podcast guests. Apologies.
It's all good. I know. Oh, here, hang on. Nope. Oh, I can't unmute him because he has chosen to unmute himself, is what StreamYard is telling me.
No.
Oh, I could almost hear him. His mic is just extremely quiet. That was strange.
And Jeff is not an extremely quiet person.
No, Jeff is the opposite of
You
extremely
you,
quiet.
you can hear Jeff. That's for sure.
All right. So Winnipesaukee, a couple of years ago, we were in an event. It was an online event, so it was, I think we were using Fishing Chaos. It was a fantastic day. It was raining all day, but the fishing was great. We had so many lead changes this time of the year. We had, I think, at one point, like 3 or 4 different people leading the event. I found my fish maybe at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Tournament ends at 3. I ended up winning, but it was a fantastic event. June 7th, again, we have that catch photo release opportunity. Should be low pressure from the tournament bass boats. Every time we go to Winnipesaukee, there's always at least 2 or 3 bass tournaments going on with the big boats. We should be free and clear of that. And it's still early in the season, so it shouldn't be too much of a wash tub. That's the big problem that we have in our kayaks. It's not so much the wind; it's really the other boats, because the waves come at you from all directions. I think the last thing I'll add is the time of the year is it could be a spawning event. It could be a post spawn event. It likely post spawn, but the largemouth will be on the bed as well.
Yep.
Yeah, that should be a fun one. We've had our trails had we've had trail events there with our trail, other trails, and it always fishes well. I think folks know Winnipesaukee pretty well, but in a kayak, it might seem a little daunting, but the fishing's still great. There's still opportunities to get away from a lot of the boat traffic. There's opportunities to get kind of, away from some of those pleasure boaters as well, in little coves and areas. So, what I would say to folks is if you're on the fence about a big body of water like that, know that there's a lot of us out there that have experience on Winnipesaukee, and we can help direct you to, launches in areas that are a little calmer, so that it's not as daunting to be on such a big body of water in your kayak.
Yeah. Todd, do you want to talk about launching, the rules about launching?
Yeah, so you can use any public available launch to you on a body of water. Unlike big boats, we don't have a specific launch that you have to use. With Winnipesaukee, it may be a little bit different depending on town permits and things like that for parking. There might be some launches that are off limits, but basically any public legal launch on a body of water you're able to use. We launch 30 minutes before lines in, so you can kind of stage your kayak right at the ramp, as long as you stay relatively right at the ramp with everyone else. 30 minutes beforehand you can take off and go to your spot, and you just have lines out, but you can, at the end of the tournament, lines out time, you stop fishing then and then make your way back to the launch and load, so you don't have to be back to the ramp at a particular time.
That's awesome. It is nice having that flexibility and, providing everybody not necessarily a head start, but you're just making things easier and kind of working around that. Yeah. I don't want to call it limitation, but kind of limitation with overall speed, right? I mean, you can get around, you can cover a lot of water, but it's a little bit slower.
Yep.
So
Right.
nice flexibility on that.
That's where
the
the
overarching
tournament apps
problem.
come in handy.
So before we go back into the rest of the tournament trails, the rest of the tournaments that you have scheduled for the rest of this year, one of the things we haven't talked about yet is what it looks like for the process for those that have never been involved in a kayak tournament before. What is the way and catch, weigh, picture, release process look like? What do people have to do? What do they need to have for everything to make this work well for them?
Yeah, Kevin, I'll dive into that because that's kind of the rules section of it.
Yep.
So, first of all, you need to be in a kayak. You need to be, I think minimum is 9 foot length, maximum is 18 foot length. You can use a canoe if you want. You can use, any approved kayak. There's some catamaran style kayaks. Those are A-okay. You can paddle, you can pedal, you can use an electric motor. You're only allowed to use one electric motor. So there are some folks that use 2 motors on their kayak, one on the stern, one on the bow. You can only use one in a tournament for our tournament trail. So there's benefits to both, but I think most people go with the bow mounted motors. As far as a tournament itself, we use an app called Tourney X. So that is, where you'd register. It's where you check in on the water the day of the tournament. You find your identifier code. We allow 2 measuring devices. One is a brand catch. They make measuring boards. You can use any brand catch or any style catch board is allowed. And then the other board we allowed that was approved for this year's use is the Yak Attack leaderboard. It's a new board. It's pretty fancy. It's got kind of made some improvements on the catch board. It's a little bit wider, allows more opportunity to put some more tags on it for those of us that are fishing in multiple tournaments and need multiple identifier codes, maybe online tournaments and things like that. You have to have your identifier code available or visible in the picture of your fish. You have to have your hand placement over the center of the fish, not covering its gills, not covering its tail. And basically, you put your fish on your measuring board, place your hand on top of it, snap a picture of it from straight up above with the identifier code in it, making sure that its mouth is all the way against the closed and against the bump end of the board. And then you upload it into the app. We'll have judges who aren't fishing at the event, but members of the committee kind of judging those fish as they come in from the anglers and certifying them. There's a whole bunch of rules, additional rules in our Facebook page under the files section that you can check out. But that's basically kind of an on the water day, right? You're taking pictures of your fish, you're uploading them into the app. The app collects the metadata off of the picture, including like GPS location and timestamp and things like that. So you can't really modify your pictures. Otherwise, that will show up in the metadata that when the fish gets judged. So kind of they've thought of all the things that you can do to game the system and eliminated those to make sure your fish catches are legit. The only other thing I want to add is that we do have a rule that is very strict, and that is you must wear a PFD and you must be wearing it and have it zipped up at all times. I've unfortunately seen people that fish in a tournament, they're taking pictures of their fish, it's fine, and then they take a selfie of themselves. They have their PFD unzipped or off or something, and they post it to like their personal, social media page. And all of a sudden they're getting disqualified for a tournament. So it's unfortunate, but those are the rules. So you have to wear your PFD. So, I just want to make that really clear for everyone who might be thinking of stepping into the kayak tournament scene. And wearing your life jacket's really important.
That is very, very important. So my only question on that is actually, there's 2 questions, and I'll do life vest one first. And then I have a question about the overall length on your fish.
Yeah.
So on the life vest, is there any restrictions on what can and cannot be used? Like, are you good with the auto inflatables or,
Yep.
like how tight are your restrictions on that?
Yeah. So auto inflatables are fine, but belt style,
Yeah,
like inflatables are not. So it has to be an over the shoulder, you can either use an inflatable. A lot of us use a brand. We get asked a lot, like, what's the best fishing PFD to wear in kayak tournaments? A lot of us wear the NRS Chinook. It's a company called NRS. They make a Chinook life vest. It's awesome, super comfortable, not too cumbersome, but one of the best on the market. So shout out to NRS.
Nice. How much does that run you typically?
About $125, I think, for that.
That's
one.
Really not bad at all for an auto inflatable.
So it's not an auto inflatable. It's a regular vest. It's not an inflatable vest.
Okay.
If you want to go the auto inflatable route, you absolutely can. What I will say for those thinking about auto inflatables is be careful when there's big waves coming over the bow of your kayak, because you can get really wet and all of a sudden have a cartridge go off on you. So
yeah, that would be awful. So then just for my own clarity and maybe anybody else's, take your picture, you upload it into the app and everything goes well. So take a picture. I got a 20.25 inch smallmouth and I put it in. Like, do I also have to write down what the length is and then like people go and fact check it kind of later, or is the app able to pick that up?
So when you enter a fish into the app, you upload the picture, you enter the type of fish it is, if it's a bass or if we're doing some type of optional like pickerel pool or something.
Yep.
You put the length in, and you enter the length into the app when you upload the picture to the fish. If you fat finger, and I do that a lot, you hit like 17.85 instead of 17.75 when you're putting a fish in. The judges will auto correct it to the right length for you, so long as the fish meets all of the criteria.
Nice. Cool. I like it. Before we go on, Jeff, quick mic check. Were you able to get that sorted out? Still no. Unfortunately. Tammy? Nope, still can't hear you either. What happened? What broke? I promise it's not me.
I think they're doing it to us on purpose. They just want us to talk more.
Yeah, but Tammy will be right back. So we'll see if that hopefully fixes it. But in the meantime, bring the schedule back up so we can go back over that a little bit more as well. So you've gone from Mass to New Hampshire to Maine. You've already made the rounds back in New Hampshire. Now we're back up into Maine to Moose Pond. I have no idea.
So I've never been there. So maybe you can tell us about it. So we have a part of the committee. We have John Brooks. He's basically our main ambassador. For that matter, Ray Morales will be serving as our Massachusetts ambassador. But we asked John to kind of pick 3 lakes, a little bit different. Try to not all small lakes, for instance, have a little bit of diversity in your lakes. And he chose Moose Pond. I know that the largemouth state record came out of Moose Pond a while back, so I'm sure it has fantastic fishing. I've looked at the maps. The very north end of the pond is my style of fishing, lots of weeds and shallow. So that's honestly about all I know about it.
Yeah, I've never been up that way, so I know nothing about it. Where is Denmark, Maine, relative to say?
Oh, it probably the best east of Freiburg. It's probably the best way I can describe it.
So that's actually not that bad then.
It's not bad. So we're certainly being conscious about where people live. We're not going to have tournaments up and down East Maine, obviously. Southern Maine. Obviously where the major population of our anglers live, so we're going to concentrate there. Belgrade's area usually attracts most of the main anglers, and we actually do have one Belgrade lake in there too. Perfect.
Well, we'll eventually get to that one. So then out of Moose Pond, you move back to Milton, New Hampshire for Milton Three Ponds, which is a very, very popular tournament lake.
Not really. I mean, I think there was only 2 tournaments on there last year. The reason why it doesn't get a lot of pressure because there's really little access. The town gate, I think, opens at 8 a.m., which is too late for us. I actually reached out to the marina owner and struck an alliance with them that he's gonna allow us to use his marina. So
that's perfect.
We fished it last year, but we ran into weather. We try not to repeat our lakes, but this one deserved a second chance. We arrived, and it was torrential downpours, lightning and thunder. We usually launch our kayaks around 6:30, lines in at 7. It was like 7:20, 7:30, and we still had 8 anglers on shore waiting for the rain to stop. It was just brutal. Had some good fish caught. I think the winning bag was around 96 inches that day. So certainly a great fishery. A little bit for everybody. There's the north end is pretty shallow, lily pads, reeds, that type of thing. In the south part of the lake, now you're getting into rock and structure. So with a basin, so there's forward facing sonar capabilities as well as throwing out a frog and a chatterbait. So a little bit for everybody.
Nice. I think I'm intrigued the most by this next one because the only experience that I have ever heard from the Charles River down in Mass is, I believe it was Bass Nation for the regional. And
really?
This 6 or 7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. And, for when they did the Northeast regionals, they tried to do it. No, sorry. It was the STQT. Was it that? No, it had to have been the regional when they try to move it all around, and hit, every year each state gets a new one. That's before like the current, format.
Sure.
And everybody hated it when they went down there. And I believe the gentleman that won ended up winning because he caught like a 4.5 or 4 3/4 on the last day. So like everybody had all these like 1 to 1.5 pound fish, and then couple of guys had like mostly 2s, and this one guy had like a fair amount of 2s, and then the 4.5. And that's when he ended up winning it all on. That's it. That's literally all I know about this. But I'm curious, what drove you down to that area to go with the Charles?
It's a fan favorite for us kayakers, especially on the Massachusetts crew. You'll find if you look at the tournament schedules online at the state, whether it's Massachusetts or even Rhode Island. Rhode Island goes up there quite a bit too. I've probably fished it 6 times. I like it. I think it's great. With the boats, you're really limited to where you can launch. With the kayaks, there's tons of car top launches everywhere up and down the river. So our limits for that event will be from all the way from Museum of Science all the way to Millis, Mass, like all the entire length of the river. So there's plenty of places that you can launch. The big boats will be really tied to maybe like 3 launches on the river, whereas we're not going to be tied to those with those limitations. A typical bag, a winning bag on the Charles River for the kayakers is probably around 95, 96 inches.
Holy crap. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So how many miles?
18s will take the day.
Yeah. How many miles of river do you think it is?
Oh God. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I'm going to guess it's 27, 30 miles.
Damn. Yeah. That's a lot of water you guys can spread out on. That's pretty phenomenal.
And so this will be another event that we can probably go above the 25 max. This Winnie, those are numbers friendly because of all the launches and all the available water. Yeah.
Perfect. So then you're back over to, kind of like Northwestern. No, that's,
Yeah.
Wow. Northwestern. You know what it is that confuses me is that Sean Graves, who coaches the Keene school, I think he did something with Mascoma, and they're nowhere near each other. But for some reason, I always get those confused. I keep thinking Mascoma's in like the southwestern corner of the state. No, that's up north near Sunapee.
Yeah, correct. It's close to Enfield, up by Grafton and Goose. In that watershed. Yep,
nice. So that should be fun because I know there's definitely largies in there. Has that got smallmouth too? I've never fished it. I drove by it a lot, but I've never actually taken the time to go fish that place.
I think that's one for Matt to talk about.
Yeah, we had an event there for another club last season. That was actually the first time I fished it, and it's not too far from where I live, so I was really interested, and I just thought I'd go in and say, let's figure it out on tournament day. And it was amazing how many 17 to 18 inch smallmouth I was catching throughout the day. I mean, there's a very, very healthy forage population in that lake. It's very evident in the summertime that they want to eat smelt. And they were piled out there. If you found bait, the fish were there. And not only that, but I still get kind of haunted. Even though I won the event, I lost a couple huge largemouth, and I am looking forward to another opportunity to go back and try to get those things. There were some big fish left in the water that day for sure. So looking for redemption, even though I did well. I don't know.
Yeah, that's awesome. You guys got like a lot of quality places on here. I do know that your next stop there, Webster Lake in Franklin, New Hampshire. Interesting enough, only fished it once. I fished with my buddy Andrew for a Merrimack Valley Bass Anglers tournament, and we won with 4 smallmouth, and we beat everybody else that had 4 largemouth. I had one of those fish that was a little over 4. Andrew had the other 3 that were all well over 4. We had a phenomenal day. That place is cool. There's quite a bit of structure there, good amount of vegetation, big smallies, big largies.
Yep.
At least in the largies, I mean, I saw them in the tournament. I've been told about them since then, but yeah, that place, nightmare of the launch for big boat guys, but for you guys, probably going to be awesome. So
yeah, so we're working with the town to so on the southern part of the lake, you have the proper launch, and I think there's only parking for like 6 trailers, so it's not suitable for big tournaments.
No,
but on the north side of the lake, there's a town lot that we've worked with in the past to get access to. So we'll be reaching out to the town to get access to that spot as well. Again, it should be able to hold the 25 anglers, but if we have to trim it down a bit, we will. This is one of Jeff's favorite places, but he can't talk, so just wave and just go thumbs up.
He's yelling into his computer.
I can't hear him. It sucks. Tammy, were you able to get yours sorted? Nope.
Oh, no.
I wonder if this is an issue with StreamYard, because that's interesting. Because like when Jeff first got in, we heard him, and then Tammy, obviously, she talked earlier, we heard her. I don't understand what's going on, and unfortunately, I can't like restart the stream, or it was
Of course. Yeah.
Ah.
We'll carry the water.
Yeah. So now, I mean, now we're getting close to the end here. So you got Onoda. I'm not sure really how to pronounce it.
I don't know how to say it either. So again, this is one of the lakes that we reached out to the anglers in Massachusetts. Where would you like to have tournaments? And having something out in Western Mass was desired. So we went with Onoda. But I looked at some previous results. Certainly a quality fishery. Doesn't get a lot of pressure. It's pretty much close to the New York border, so it's not highly pressured. So we should have a good day there.
Yeah. I know Berkshire Bass is a tackle shop out in Western Mass out there. They do a tournament there every spring, I believe. If not every spring, then most years. And some of the results that they've posted out of there have been pretty good. It's got good quality smallmouth, largemouth. It just looks like a really cool spot. There's a decent amount of deep water, but not overly deep. Looks like some good contours out there too. So structure-wise, there might be some stuff to play around with out there. Right. That should be another fun one. Now you guys bring it back to New Hampshire for the second to last one, at least the last regular season event, to what used to be one of my favorite lakes in the state, where I learned to cut my teeth on smallmouth here. That's Newfound Lake. So I don't even know what to say about that lake other than I am sad about the rock bass population, but it's still a fun lake and it's beautiful up there.
Yeah. Todd, you want to take it?
I don't have a lot of newfound experience, so I will gladly turn it over to someone who's fished it more than me. It's actually somewhere I personally have stayed away from, only because the last time I went there in the summertime, it was lunacy. I watched someone sink their bass boat that didn't really know what they were doing, not far from the ramp, and I was like, this isn't for me and my kayak. So
yeah.
But then me and Todd decided to go out there in December.
We did.
And we got a few in the morning, and then the rest of the day was pretty much a lot of motoring around and looking and not finding.
Beautiful.
But
Beautiful
the water was 42 degrees, and it was dead calm out, so it was a good time to get out anytime.
Yeah,
that is.
Yeah.
So we chose Newfound, one, to get another big lake in the mix. People, we allow forward facing sonar, so let's have people use it. So people invested all this money, got to have fun with it, right? So it's definitely probably going to be a forward facing sonar event, especially this time of the year. October 23rd. The smallies will be suspended chasing bait. But we're definitely wanting to get another big lake. Last year we had Winter Squam. We're trying to pick lakes that your typical kayak club are not participating in or fishing. So one of my drivers each year when we talk about locations is let's go somewhere where we haven't gone before. We don't you get stuck in that same routine of going to the same lakes. So this is a new lake, and it sounds like it's a new lake for everybody.
Nice. I got to say, I mean, there's a reason why I picked that lake, to really understand how to fish for smallmouth, and now we're going back to 2009, 2010, 11, somewhere in that window. When my dad picked up our first bass boat that, he let me use pretty much whenever I wanted, and, just trying to learn more and explore and get out to different places. And, everybody told me, like, hey man, if you really want to learn how to fish for smallmouth, don't go to Newfound, because while the fishing there is really good, it's tough. It's probably the most, at the time, difficult smallmouth fishery out of those bigger lakes.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, well, that's why I'm going to pick it. And I figure if I can figure him out on that, then I should be able to figure him out anywhere. I think Winnisquam still probably was and still is the toughest place. Yeah. But I agree with you. By the time you get there, that time of the year, August, almost all those fish should be offshore. But I can say that there's a few areas where you don't have to just be out over the middle of nothing and do really well out there, which is what I liked about that lake. At pretty much any point in the year, I can still get them off structure. Right. Your number of opportunities to do that becomes greatly reduced at that point in the year, but there's still some opportunities to be had. So if you're interested in doing that kind of tournament out there, that tournament out there on Newfound, don't feel like you have to have forward facing sonar to be able to go out there and at least have a good showing. I mean, still even potentially win. That place can still play very, very nice at that time of the year without the forward facing.
Yeah, another reason why we picked this time of the year, late August, is because of weather. You're not going to have the unstable weather patterns that you have in the spring or in the fall. So it should be, hopefully it should not be a windy event unless we get a hurricane.
Knock on wood, Kevin.
Although that some of the like most brutal wind days that I've had out there have always been my best days on that lake, and you know how it is. You get a northwest wind out of there or a southeast wind, and it gets ugly so fast.
Yeah,
but man, fires them up.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to pick. Like I said, a more stable month to have that event because that lake can and will be a wind tunnel if the wind picks up.
Oh yeah, yep. So all right, Jeff, I know you're back. Mic check.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Woo!
we can.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey,
He's back.
Thank you. About time. All right, good.
But wait, what? Tammy, we get still nothing. Damn it.
Damn.
I actually had to switch to my phone because my laptop mic is definitely broken. So,
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
All right. Well, at least we got you sorted out. Well, you got yourself sorted out. Like I did.
I figured it out. Yeah, better late than never, right?
Yeah, exactly. So now we go back up to Maine for your last regular season event of the year, the Salmon and McGrath and Belgrade. The only thing I know about the Belgrades is everybody says everywhere up there is phenomenal. So
yeah, Belgrade is my favorite watershed in the Northeast. There's something for everybody, and I think there's 7 lakes all within 5 minutes of each other. So if something's not working out with one lake, you just hop over to another one, and you can go to East Pond, North Pond for some largemouth action. You can go to Gray Pond or Long Pond for smallmouth action. It's I foresee a lot of history being made at Belgrade's for the New Hampshire Bass Nation Kayak Club.
yeah, it should be fun.
So
Jeff,
Matt, you know a little bit about Salmon McGrath, right?
Just a little bit.
A little bit.
Kind of threw it out there as an option, and then because I talked about it before, I've been going to there's a camp that me and some of my family have been going to since I was 8 years old. Been fishing there every June since then. Threw it out as a joke, sort of, and Kevin and Jeff said, "Yeah, why don't we do that?" So I wasn't going to argue. It's a fun place. It's a great largemouth fishery, like really good largemouth fishery. There are some smallmouth, but the largemouth definitely shine there.
Yeah, we wanted to handicap ourselves, so let's pick lakes that Matt's really good at. That was smart on our part. Because we don't need it. We don't have enough of a challenge.
Very much looking forward to it.
I got to get there more. I know that's part of my plans for this year anyway, in general, is to fish in Maine a lot more. Cabo Conti, I know you guys are doing the stream, but the main lake itself, that's very high on my list of places I really want to fish.
Yeah.
And then just the Belgrades in general, which initially in 2019, Andrew and I were trying to figure out, like, dude, let's go somewhere and do something fun. I asked some questions. People were like, go to the Belgrades. Like, just plant yourself right in the middle, and any of those lakes would be great. And ultimately, we decided not to do it because of that. And we knew that it would be like analysis by paralysis, that if we got in the middle and we got one lake that was off, we're like, which one do we go to? And then we go to the next day, we're like, now which one do we start at? And knowing our luck, we would just always pick the lake that was off that day of that week. So we ended up going to the St. Lawrence River instead. To make things a hell of a lot easier.
Can't go wrong.
We're not going to go that far.
Oh man, you guys should though if you could. This is amazing.
My first tournament out of state was Messalonsky, and I stayed at a camp on Long Pond and fell in love with Long Pond. My family's been camping there ever since.
Nice.
And the pike that you can pull out of that lake is just utterly fantastic.
That's awesome. Maybe I should look at doing that. My kids are finally interested in going away for a weekend fishing with me. My wife is in, and they both want to catch a pike. So I was like, oh, maybe we'll take them up to Champlain and stay at Cozy Cottages. But the idea of going like backwoods Maine, like somewhere up there, kind of really getting off the beaten path would be nice. Now you give me something to think about.
The Belgrade area is fantastic for families. My family loves that area. It's really, really nice. And the lake is fantastic. It's
they're
super
all
clean.
unbelievable.
You know, I had giant schools of alewives swimming up, through my kids when they were in the water. So it was fantastic.
That's awesome. Well, last but not least, brings us to the end of the year championship over on Squam Lake, September 26th and 27th, which should be pretty interesting. I mean, that should prove for like both a really deep smallmouth bite and then potentially a really good shallow largemouth bite. Although it is a place that I've got my biggest largemouth that have come out of there have come out of like 35 feet. That place it's cool, but it threw me through a loop first few times I fished it trying to find largies.
Yeah, that's I wouldn't think smallmouth when they think Squam Lake, and there's obviously a good reason why they should, but the largemouth fishery is fantastic there too. But yeah, so this date was one of the dates that we had to adjust due to the lottery. We lost our first choice, which was the Saturday Sunday before 2021. But as you know, Squam is popular, so we had a low draft number in the lottery, so we couldn't get a 2-day tournament. So we pivoted and we're going to go with a Friday, Saturday tournament. So I built over the off season. I built relationships with the Squam Lakes Association. So they're going to let us use their launch. They're actually going to let us use their facilities for the awards at the end of the day. I reached out to the Squam Lakes Nature Center, which is right at that main launch. The main launch doesn't allow car tops; it's trailer parking only. But the Nature Center owns, I call it the grassy knoll right behind that launch. And they've given us permission to use overflow parking for our car tops in that area. And Cottage Place is a hotel motel resort area on Little Squam. And so we'll get a discount, 15% discount on lodging for any out-of-staters that want to stay there. And because one of our rules, you have to allow, if you stay at a camp, any launch site needs to be available to everybody. So Cottage Place has given us 20 parking spots for non-guests to launch at Little Squam as well, for a modest fee, $10. So launching shouldn't be an issue for the club. We'll have the main launch, car tops and trailers, SLA, car tops and trailers, and Cottage Place, Little Squam, car tops and trailers.
That's phenomenal. You can't make it any easier for a place like that.
Yeah, the one thing I'll add is that this, as far as I know, other than the Squam Lakes Association, this is the first kayak tournament to be held on the lake. So we're breaking new ground.
That's freaking awesome. Well, there you go.
And not due to lack of trying, though. I want to add that. I tried to get it a couple of years ago, and the Lake Association did not cooperate with me.
That's not surprising.
Yeah.
He doesn't have need relationship skills.
I was going to say Kevin's far more personable than you, Jeff.
He definitely is. He's more approachable. It's that retired attitude.
Relaxed.
The retired persistence.
Yeah, well, there's that too.
Well, I tell you what, like going through your whole tournament trail that you guys have scheduled this year, like that's a friggin' hell of a trail. I mean, looking at all the locations in New Hampshire alone, like that's awesome. Then you add in the variety that you've got between your main and mass locations. Like there is not just a little bit of everything for everybody, but there's a repeated bit of everything for everybody. Right. So really plays in well to the format you have for the number of events that people need to be able to fish to be considered not only for Angler of the Year, but Regular of the Year, and then for the championship at the end of the year. Like you could not have made this any easier for people that we either make the whole season or can only make a handful of events throughout the entire season. Like the flexibility on this is phenomenal. So hats off to you guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, so with the Angler of the Year, what I will touch on with the Angler of the Year and Rookie of the Year race. Tammy touched on it earlier. The qualification, you need 5 events. It's your best 5 events plus the championship. Championship can't be dropped. You can fish every single trail event, every single qualifying event. It'll be the best 5. But we're also going to be carving out $4 for Angler of the Year and $1 for Rookie of the Year out of the entry fee. So there'll be a cash award for those winners at the end of the year to again drive participation in the club.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Cool. Well, I don't know. I mean, like, I know we covered everything that I think would be beneficial to anybody that is both new to your tournament trail, but also new to just kayak tournament fishing in general as well. Is there anything else you can think of from like a completely new to kayak tournament fishing experience that you'd want to be able to tell, that you wish you had known yourself when you first started getting into this? Like, damn, if I'd known that, well in advance, I could have made my life a hell of a lot easier before getting involved in this.
So I have something I can add there, if that's cool with you guys. So what I would say is that it seems daunting to hop into tournaments and fish a tournament trail. Kayak fishing is some of the friendliest, most welcoming group of people that I've ever fished with. Everyone wants to help each other. And although we have a healthy level of competition on tournament day, you're going to find people out there laughing and chatting with each other as they pass each other by, and wanting to see, extra pictures of big fish that people have uploaded, and just high-fiving each other. And it is truly like a very friendly community. And I think that for me was something I didn't realize at the beginning, just how welcoming it would be to a new member. I was worried that I was going to go in and not know anybody, and I didn't know how I was going to do. And what if I didn't even catch a single fish? And you know what? I went in and I caught 3 fish my first tournament, not 5. And Jeff was there saying, show up next time, buddy, because I know you're going to get those other 2. And oh, by the way, here's some tips that I could give you about what worked today, so that when you come back here next time, you know what you're doing. And that was really cool. So
It's that camaraderie. That's what I like to hear about.
Yeah, it's pretty cool because we cycle in between, several trails, and that's how we've all kind of gotten to know each other and end up at this point. So it's nice, like, meeting new people. Some people join in, and then, I remember when people have joined in like 5 years ago, and now they're kind of like regular faces at all the, events around the state. And we've all made a lot of good friends doing this, and we see each other, we travel with each other. It's a really great thing, and I think everybody's enjoying it a lot, and we're gonna have a great year.
Nice. So any other tips or advice you guys can think of that would be helpful for, especially newcomers?
The hardest thing you can do is convince a fish to stand still on a metal board. So if you want to get into it, bring your board every time you go fishing, measure a fish every single time, practice taking a picture, just practice all the time. Every day is a tournament, and just treat it like that. And then by the time you actually get into an event, you're going to be able to put the fish down or have a method in your head of how you do things so that you make the process as smooth, as quick as possible. Because the longer the fish is out of the water, the more it's going to freak out on you. And believe it or not, it's the smaller ones that freak out faster than the bigger ones. The bigger ones, especially big, fat, largemouth, they'll just sit there and be like, hey, take my picture. That's right, you love me. And then they let you go. It's the little smallmouth that are the most annoying ones. And you can see, so some of we have one guy that fishes with us. His hands are so gigantic. You'd think that the 18.5-inch fish he just measured was 10 inches. It covers up the entire. But you can also tell, you can see the white knuckle. He's just the board is bending under his grip. That's how tight he holds that fish. And that's just that right there. And Kevin and I went to the Bass Nation banquet last weekend, and that was kind of something I touched on there. Like, talking to a bunch of bass boat guys, we do what you do, but then because we like a challenge, we want to measure a fish that doesn't want to be out of the water on a metal board that's probably either really hot or really cold, depending on the time of year. And we want to just challenge ourselves just that little bit more. So that got a good laugh from most people. So
that's the weird thing with kayak tournament fishing, is that you can get one, you'll be so excited, you catch a 22-inch largemouth, you're on top of the world, but there's still one thing to do, and it's get a successful picture. and there's a technique to it. Number one thing I could recommend to new people, put your net off to the left side when you're measuring a fish. I don't know how many fish have been saved by that net being there. Sometimes I intentionally bring out 2 so I have more coverage for any flopping that might happen. Winnipesaukee in particular, those fish are angry. They do not want to be on a board.
Yep.
That's a 2-net tournament every time.
Fired up on that lake. It's nuts. And there's nothing worse than like you catch like a 14-inch smallmouth and it's like kind of paper thin, but you get it on a drop shot, you pull it up, and it's like, well, I'm gonna have to retie 3 feet of that leader because he just made a disaster of that every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And speaking of Winnipesaukee, because my microphone didn't work, the last event we fished there with the last club, we had 21 guys participating in that. We pulled in 208 bass in a day, the group of us.
Holy
The
crap.
difference between Kevin's first place, I think you had 89 3/4, Kevin, or 90?
Yeah, I don't know.
The difference between first place and 17th place was less than 4 inches.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
It was an onslaught of 17 to 19-inch fish, and it was so much fun. I can't wait to go back. That's going to be that right there is probably one of my favorite events for this coming year. That's
I'm
going to
looking forward to spending more time up there myself this year too. I got the STQT for Bass Nation for bass boats at the end of the season, and I got to spend more time up there. But yeah, I mean, I know what you mean. When you get out there and the smallies are like really firing, that place is just so much fun.
especially when they're shallow, and you don't have to have that forward-facing sonar to see them in 90 feet of water. And you could just throw up spinner baits or crankbaits and just hammer them when they're really aggressive. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yep. Tammy, I did hear your mic fire up. So do you have any parting thoughts for anybody else that's coming in, or any just parting thoughts in general for the tournament trail this year?
No, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right, cool. I switched headset, so that might help. I was trying to think of like when I first joined and just kind of giving, I think, from a woman's point of view in a male dominated sport. It was very intimidating at first, but I grew up all my life. I have 2 brothers. In our neighborhood, they were all boys. No women, no girls in our neighborhood. So I was used to hanging out with guys. I played sports all my life too. So I was used to it. I wasn't too intimidated about that. It was just more intimidating about not really knowing how to fish, how to kayak fish. And when I first joined the kayak club that I did, the Granite State Kayak Anglers, it was very welcoming. All the guys were really great. It seemed excited. They were like, "Ooh, a woman, yeah." It was very welcoming, very encouraging. And it was, and those, I guess, when I opened up to it, and I never was closed off to it, but, approaching me, I guess some people, a lot of people, it's hard to approach people when you don't know if they want help or need help or whatever. So, you don't want to kind of step on anybody's toes and stuff. But I had one guy in the club, Ed, he kind of was like, I don't want to step in, I don't want to step in your way or, not give you advice if you're not looking for it. But if I can just help you out here, I'm like, oh my God, please, thank you. Tell me anything and everything. And from then on, he was constantly like giving me advice and filling me in and stuff. And I learned so much from him. And it was really great. It's been a great experience. And I think one of the big things I would recommend for anybody getting started is your kayak. It's better to, I don't know, I can't think of that saying, but cry once, pay later, cry once, whatever that is. But really get it. There you go. Yep. Get a good quality kayak, and you can find some good, if you can't spend that $2,000 or $5,000, you can find a good one on Marketplace, but, make sure it is a good quality kayak. Go to a reputable dealer, try them out, and find what you want, because, we do fish not a lot, but we do fish some big waters, and it's tough with the boat traffic out there. So when you're in a kayak where you feel safe, that's a big thing for me. I was terrified of, just boat traffic and wash and waves and this, but So that was that's one thing I think is just make sure you get a good kayak if you're going to, start. And if you don't think if you're not sure if you're going to like it, again, find something decent on Marketplace, but find what you like, and then, next year or the year after, be ready to upgrade because you kind of know what you like now.
Perfect. Very well said. All right. Anything else? Any other parting thoughts you can think of? For me, at least, as an outsider, just trying to think of this, if I were jumping into it, I asked all the questions that I would need to know at least up front. Like, okay, now I know where to go. So we shared the Facebook page. It's got all there's a what you said was forms.
Yep.
That's on
Yeah,
there.
there's a file section. You're going to find the rules, the bylaws, the waivers that you need to sign up. Kind of all the instructions are there.
Yep, perfect. So we got the information there to find out, want to find out where all the tournaments were again. I want to get all the files so I can get all that squared away and get signed up. You covered the app that you use and how it all works. Make sure your metadata is on. General safety rules, life preservers required. You talked about the rulers, what that process is. Matt with a really good idea too, with the nets on standby for flippers. And then, but more importantly, you all touched upon just how welcoming the club is and just the kayak scene as a whole. For anybody new to it that's jumping in, again, whether it's just jumping in general or just trying to find new trail they want to jump in on. So I do think we covered everything. And I didn't see any like really overly pressing questions in the chat other than there was one question about what brand you guys all use for kayaks, but I did see Tammy had addressed that in the chat directly. So unless there's any other parting thoughts you guys have, I think we've covered everything.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just add that if you are in the market for a kayak, go check out Mountain Road Trading Post. They're one of our sponsors, but they have a great selection of unlimited new canoes, old towns, the Titans. So you certainly be able to find something within your striking distance to make it work for you. The other thing I'll add too is that we are a competitive club, and if you're not ready for that competition yet, and you want to explore kayak fishing or tournament fishing, there's a bunch of monthly tournaments out there. There's that native KBF still does monthlies. There's a Strike King. They do a tournament as well. So there are a number of virtual events, we call them, that you fish by yourself, you fish your honey hole, and you just put up your numbers without having that pressure that you need to get all your 5 fish within that one day and then go back to the ramp and post the 5 fish that you have.
Yep.
And we'll have a couple this season also that are just online events.
Nice. Perfect. You guys really do make this easy for everybody. And you give them plenty of
try to.
We try.
Yeah. Well, that's what it's all about. And especially you guys talking about, the progress you made from last year to the changes you did to try and improve it this year. Like you guys are doing a great job.
And we're hitting lots of new places, and it's going to be really cool. This people that have been fishing kayak tournaments in New Hampshire, I mean, a lot of these places are going to be brand new. It's not the same old. I know it can get repetitive, but Kevin and Jeff did a great job at obtaining permits at some new places and spreading it out a bit. Everybody can learn some new stuff.
Yeah. So Kevin, you had mentioned Mountain Road. Where are they located?
Oh yeah, Raymond, New Hampshire.
Raymond, New Hampshire. Wow.
Yep, they're on the road, Mountain Road, but it's the same entrance road to the state park.
Oh, okay. So that's pretty easy. It's only a few minutes off the highway. Then what?
Oh yeah,
5
it's like right off of 101.
Perfect. So there you go. You can go over there, then you guys can go fish Pawtuckaway on your way out. You can stop over at the Tuckaway Tavern, get some delicious steak tips, which, by the way, the Korean barbecue
you know the routine
are so good. And they have the Chinese sausage too. I'm a fatty. God, I love food.
Oh, and I will add that Pawtuckaway, Mountain Road Trading Post, they're going to have a small trail this year as well. It'll be a 3-event trail. I think I don't know the dates exactly, but I think there's a May, June, and August 1-day event. So take a look at that. I think it's on their website or their Facebook page. So take a look at that as well. Again, low pressure, get your feet wet type tournament.
Yep, perfect. I do have to bring this up. Sean Place has mentioned it twice, and I forgot to bring it up earlier, but it was not appropriate then. To work around this, if anybody else is interested in more of these online tournaments, and this just goes for everybody, not just kayaks. Big Bass Dreams is running a bunch of tournaments this year, and both regionally as well, where it's that all based on length and weight, or at least length. There's more details on Big Bass Dreams website. So if you're interested, you're looking for more options to be able to fish, then by all means, go check that out as well. Yeah, man, that's all I got. So again, last chance here for parting thoughts before we wrap it up for the night.
Now, if you have any questions, reach out to us. I'm very responsive. I am in the middle of a move. I'm moving next month, so I might be a little slow in my response, but I'm pretty responsive when it comes to messages or email. But reach out to the club, reach out to anyone, reach out on the Facebook page. We'll get back to you.
Perfect. Well, thank you all very much. Kevin, Todd, Tammy, Jeff, Matt, all of you for coming on to do this. I'm glad I was able to kind of help out in any way that I could. I did like that much to help, but I'm here to help.
This is great.
No,
Thank you for giving us a platform to talk about.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no, you're very welcome. Again, like it's I don't know, man, like any chance I can get to help other people out. And, like I love bass fishing, everything. And again, I don't have a kayak, doesn't mean we can't talk about this. And to have that opportunity to just bring more awareness, I guess, to it. Hopefully that was the whole goal. Then, hopefully you guys get a lot more attendance this year and you guys have a phenomenal year. Aside from that, for everybody else that's still here watching, thank you very much for sticking around and listening to us tonight. I greatly appreciate it. We all do. For next week, I don't know what the topic is yet, but we'll be back every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. As always, Sean Miller will definitely be back on with me next week as well. We've got a few more kind of, hopefully, we've got some things in the works, and he's making some magic happen for some of these other guests that we're going to have on as well. But the important thing is I get my boat back on Friday. So starting this Sunday, like I'm really back in the swing of things, and regular fishing videos should be back up and running very quickly here as well. Regardless of what Sunday brings, I'm going to record something. I just invested a lot more into my recording equipment, and I got a few more things to do. I'm going all in on it this year, so I'm excited for this. That's all I got. We'll see you guys again next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. As always, you guys that's here in the stream, hang for a minute after the stream ends. Everybody else, have a wonderful night. Thank you again, as always. Catch you next week.
Thank you all.